So, maybe you started to play Rivals of Aether after Definitive Edition came out, or maybe you've dabbled before then. Either way, you've probably run into the online demon that is Kragg at some point or another. This slow, tanky character also rocks a versatile projectile, huge range, and some of the hardest hitting moves in the game. So let's talk about how to take him down. I'm Saber, and welcome to Rivals of Aether 101, How to Fight Kragg. The way this series works is simple. I'm going to quickly break down the highlights of each character, focusing on their unique tools and strategies, and then the counterplay to those same moves. Because Kragg is a common online character that forces you to understand and utilize the core mechanics of Rivals to deal with his game plan, he's a great character to kick off this series with. Kragg is one of the heaviest characters in the game, and he packs a lot of power, but his slow movement speed makes him reliant on clever usage of his special attacks to find openings. In this video, I'll mostly cover how his specials are used in neutral and how to fight against them, before giving a few other tips on dealing with Kragg's options. For starters, his neutral B allows him to pull a rock out of the ground, which can be thrown in any direction. Not only can just holding the rock allow Kragg to threaten a ton of space, but the rock doesn't go away after it's thrown. It can either be picked up and thrown again by Kragg, or it can be broken with an attack, which will send shards in the direction that the attack would normally send. These shards are intangible, so while you can parry them just like any other move, you can't stop them from hitting you by putting out an attack like you would with many other projectiles. In general, you want to respect the threat posed by the rock when Kragg is holding it. They can quickly throw it at a few different angles, and will gladly do so if you jump, because then you can no longer parry. As a result, your goal should be to play safe, baiting Kragg into throwing the rock at you, which you can parry with relative ease if you aren't right next to him, or throwing it somewhere else to get rid of it, because Kragg is incapable of using techs or even other moves like his up B while holding the rock. This makes it risky for him to pull out a rock at close distance, because if you hit him before he has a chance to throw it, you can take Kragg for a wild ride. To be specific, it takes 7 frames to throw a rock, so if your combos are even within 7 frames of being true, even if they wouldn't normally combo on someone who's mashing air dodge or trying to tech, they will still work on a Kragg that is holding rock. If a rock is laying on stage, Kragg will usually be looking to break it, both to send the shards flying at you, and so they can create a new one to throw, because they can only have one rock out at a time. Fortunately, if you're watching out for how they're playing around rock, the shards can also be quite easy to parry, allowing you to work around this neutral tool so long as you stay close to the ground. If the rock is between you and them, you can also try to break it yourself, but keep in mind that they may be baiting you to do this, so that they can parry the shards back at you. This can often become a game of chicken, with both players dancing around the rock until someone eventually tries to break it and catch the other off guard, but as before, your priority here should be to threaten with your movement, getting closer and closer to Kragg while making sure that you can still parry if you need to. Kragg's side B can also be overwhelming in neutral if you don't know how to deal with it. He rolls toward you and can cancel the attack on hit into a jump, allowing him to quickly follow up with an aerial afterwards. If you hit him while he's rolling, he'll take very little horizontal knockback, cannot be knocked into the air, and the move will not be interrupted. This means that you really have 2 options against his side B: parry it or get out of the way. Side B has a fair amount of end lag, which means that if you jump or just stay out of its way, then you can reset to neutral pretty consistently. But its slow speed makes it easy to parry and can lead to a huge punish. Because he can be pushed back horizontally by strong attacks, it's even possible to stall his side B with an attack to give yourself more time to set up a parry afterwards. However, Kragg can choose to stop his side B in place for a short amount of time by turning around, which can be used to bait out parries and allow him to punish someone who is ready to parry a full speed side B. You can still punish this option by simply waiting, but being able to briefly delay when he would hit you gives Kragg a way to turn punishing his side B into a 50-50 situation, making it important for you to keep track of whether or not your opponent likes to use this turnaround. Again, if you aren't confident in parrying his side B, you can always just retreat to the air, where Kragg cannot quickly threaten from his side B. The last special you really need to worry about in neutral is his down B. Kragg can create 3 spikes that emerge in front of him, popping opponents into the air and setting up for combos. This move has massive range, but like his other specials, it's susceptible to being parried. The biggest spike comes out on frame 38, meaning that if Kragg is using this in neutral, you have tons of time to react with a parry. It's important to know that if Kragg uses down B on a platform, the spikes will appear on the platform until they run out of room, at which point they will appear below on the stage itself. This is a common trick that Kraggs like to do while standing on platforms, because it catches people off guard, but once you know what to look out for, it can be an easy parry punish for you. Overall, this move is very straightforward, but it's threatening if you can't parry it or otherwise just aren't ready for a move that can hit from so far away. But I promise it will get less intimidating once you get used to thinking about it as a threat from the distances where it might get used. So, I've talked a lot about parrying so far in this video, because not only is it key to dealing with many of Kragg's unique tools, but it's a core mechanic in Rivals as a whole. If you want to get better at parrying moves like Kragg's side B or down B, I recommend checking out the Axmos Parry bot, which I've linked in the description. You can set it to use specific moves over and over, making practicing your parry timings easier than ever. Kragg's last special, his up B, won't really get used in neutral. He can create a pillar from anywhere on the stage, which will pop opponents up if they're in its way, and can allow Kragg to regain his recovery resources by standing on it. Once fully formed, the pillar can be broken by attacking it directly, or after a second of it being on screen, you can also break it with a projectile. Kragg can also opt to break it at any time by pressing up B again, and any character who's standing on a pillar when it breaks will be put into the helpless state, which can mean certain death if they're not near a wall. As you might guess, the rewards of going out and trying to break Kragg's pillar as soon as it forms are huge. It can mean death for the Kragg, but if you don't have a good read on when the pillar will get created, it's easy for Kragg to create the pillar after you've begun your attack, which will cause the pillar to hit you and let Kragg escape back to stage. If you don't feel comfortable with going off stage to challenge the pillar, you can allow Kragg to make the pillar, get his double jump back, and then you can punish how he comes back to stage. His slow aerial speed and big body make it easy to swat him out of the air, and he can only create a pillar once per air time. So, if you hit him away after he's already made a pillar, he's often as good as dead. Kraggs will sometimes try to push through your edgeguarding attempts by using side B in the air, so you'll want to stay close to the ground and punish this landing option with parry if they're using it often. Side B is slow, so you'll have plenty of time to react if they use it, but it takes practice to learn how much leeway you have to bully Kragg off stage while still respecting the threat of side B and being able to parry it if needed. With time, abusing Kragg's linear recovery tools will feel more natural, and you'll be able to close out stocks much more consistently, despite Kragg's weight allowing him to survive powerful attacks at high percents. I also want to walk you through 2 common combos from Kragg and how to get out of them. First, when you fight Kragg, you'll probably get hit by this setup a lot. Kragg's dash attack can be comboed on hit into a jab or a tilt, and will mostly get cancelled into his forward tilt. This combo can rack up damage and push you towards the edge of the stage, where his strong edgeguarding tool can quickly end stocks. In general, you want to DI down and away from Kragg, and be ready to tech so that he can't follow up with another dash attack and keep the string going. You'll still need to mix up your tech habits to avoid getting hit after the tech, but knowing how to get out of this simple combo will help you escape a lot of damage off of low percentage openings when you fight against Kragg. The other defensive trick to know in this matchup is that his forward air, which is strong enough to kill at high percent or on bad DI, can also combo into itself if you hold in. The trick to DIing this move is to do survival DI, which is up and in, and then switch to drift DIing out so that you go far enough from being hit to not get hit by a second forward air. If you are unfamiliar with drift DI, I cover the mechanic in depth at 442 in my video introducing new Rivals mechanics to Smashers, which I've linked in the description. That does it for today's tips on fighting Kragg. Hopefully I've been able to help you better understand at a basic level what it is that Kragg does, how his moves work, and how to play around some of his most threatening options. If you have more specific questions about anything I covered in this video, feel free to ask in the comments, or I would also recommend joining the Rivals of Aether Academy Discord server, which is set up to specifically help new players learn the game. Thanks for watching, If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to follow me on Twitter and subscribe to this channel to catch more Rivals content coming soon.